제 영어 원서를 한번 읽어보도록 하겠습니다. 배가 고파서 뭐 좀 먹고, 제가 한 일주일 정도를 쉬다 보니까 쉬는 게 쉽지가 않아요, 지금. 에휴, 어쩌다가 이렇게 됐는지는 잘 모르겠지만, 어쨌든 지금 오케이. The gift of the presents 한번 읽어볼까요? 예전에 한 번도 정말 너무 오래전에 읽었던 책이어서 프레젠트 타임에 대해서 한참 좀 깊이 빠져있을 때 그랬던 것 같습니다. 오늘 간단하게 루틴을 하고 질은 생각하지 말고 루틴의 질은 일단 지금 빨리 예전에 과거의 나로 되돌아가야 되기 때문에 짧게라도 루틴을 해보도록 하겠습니다. The power of presence. We don't need to be perfect or problem for it to be present for the moment. We lose ourselves continuously in ongoing thought loops that sweep us out of the present moment. During our average day, most of us speak around 16,000 words, but our thoughts are internal, tailless, chatterbox minds produce tens of thousands more, 95% of which are reruns. 맞아요, that's true. No wonder it's so hard to get out of stillness. It's buried under tens of thousands of thoughts. One of the most difficult times to be present is when things are not going well, and although that's exactly when we need the presence of the most, it's also when it's the least available to us. If you're like me, you may tend to catastrophize, which can truly exacerbate the situation. Okay, all of this in the span of less than 3 seconds. Although it seems like 15 minutes, and then most surprisingly, the cricket left my ear canal on its own. I felt hugely relieved, and pretty foolish for having made such an elevated talk about the dreaded future that was never to be. We easily enter the land of catastrophic thinking, where the worst case is the only case, facing thoughts and feeling far more elaborate and negative than whatever the initial experience was. I'm sure you can bring to mind your own examples. No matter our life experiences, our choice of occupation, to our family situation, we tend to review our lives with our woulda, coulda, shouldas, in search of the perfect path, or at least an improved one. Our minds have mind of their own and are eager to get on to the next thing, something better, or take us back to something happened in the past. People know it. We have almost ourselves in our stories, thoughts, or feelings about the future or past. I imagine that you're familiar, as I am, with these thought loops, what I like to call thought safaris. We forget to miss completely what's happening right now, and generally are in contact with the here and now anyway. We make plans for the futures. They rarely unfold, either looking ahead of what we imagine will finally bring us to happiness we seek and deserve, or fearing dangers and disasters that may very never occur. As Mark Twain said, I have created many troubles, but most of them never happened. We can all agree that our non-stop thoughts keeps us out of the present moment. 맞아요. So, how do we spend more time in the present? That's what we'll be discussing in the first part of this book, starting with defining presence. The opposite of presence is absence. The perplexed thing about presence is that I can be sitting across the room from your meeting, physically seemingly present, but actually be be absent if mind is somewhere else. This is not a new feature of the human condition, although the prevalence of the digital devices has increased. The potential that our minds and our bodies are not in the same place and at the same time. I'll be using the terms presence, mindfulness, and mindful awareness synonymously and interchangeably in this book. Mindfulness is awareness cultivated by paying attention in a sustained and particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. When you are mindful, you have emotional balance, with fewer extreme highs or lows, and a sense of spaciousness and inquisitiveness to whatever arises. You can catch yourself when your mind is currently downward the spiral of negative thinking, or when other mental obstacles trip you up. Presence is a state of receptive awareness that enables us to pay attention to what is happening right now. It's more than awareness. It's a receptive awareness, or being open to whatever is happening without getting carried away with our own opinions or judgments about it. Welcoming both in good news or bad news with curiosity and kindness to ourselves and others. Please notice that I didn't say without judgment, because our minds are not judging all of the time. That's what they do. The point is that we aren't trying to get rid of judgments, we are just trying to keep in mind that judgments, like thoughts, memories, and emotions, are simply mental activities that come and go. Without mindfulness, we very quickly, often without even being aware of it, put our opinions or preconceived notions front and the center, as we spend our lives seeing, categorizing, and judging situations, events, and people around us, as well as ourselves. Even with presence, we may still sometimes say the wrong thing at the wrong time. Feel annoyed when our neighbors notice and wake up early in the morning and experience the bad things in our lives. So, what would be different? Our relationship to our feelings and experiences, whether happy, sad, or in between, will shift. More time spent being present means that more often we can bring forth the most flexible and resilient selves. We will be less drawn up in when life's events emerge. My 90-year-old mother-in-law, Su Xiujiu, and described the deeper surprises that made in her life this way. What used to annoy me now amuses me. Okay, a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. Wandering mind, wandering mind. About 50% of times we spend thinking about something other than what we do. This means we spend only about half of our time in the present. On top of the 80% of the time, we are thinking about something that is actually more stressful than what we are currently doing, meaning we are the authors of stress. We are seeking to avoid that true, even just not present moment. I don't need to just think about it. It's just in a kind of wandering mind. I don't need to just think about what happened in class 2 days ago, so I don't need to think about that and then imagine about it. It is all wandering mind, so I don't know why I'm still doing that. Okay, so the researchers also collected data on happiness using a track your happiness. After prompt, thousands of people in response to the question about what activities they were engaged in, what they were thinking about, and how happy they were. They find a 47% of mind wandering rate. Even when respondents were having sex, engaging in conversation, or exercising. 맞아요, that's true. When we are aware of what we are doing, we are the happiest, regardless of what we are actually doing. In other words, even when we are doing something we find unpleasant or boring, such as paying our bills, we feel calmer when present for the activity rather than when thinking about something else. Our mental and physical well-being is enhanced when we are present for what is happening as it happens, whether it be boring or exciting, pleasant or unpleasant. We're only unhappy when unintentionally mind wandering, because when you aren't present, we can easily get stuck in the ruminating, reliving, and regretting the past, our past holding, catastrophizing, and worrying about the future. This unintentional negative mind wandering causes us to feel distracted and unhappy. Sound familiar? Also, in high stress situations, we are more prone to unintentional mind wandering. That's true. We may be thinking, I actually enjoy daydreaming, reminiscing, and just not letting my mind wander. It's really relaxing for me. I'm not suggesting that you keep intentional mind wandering or daydreaming, because when it's intentional, it actually supports creativity and positive emotions, insights, and relaxation, and it helps us in a better plan for the future. Let's just say you're a songwriter working on a new song, and you go out for a walk around the block and intentionally let your mind wander in order to enhance your creativity. Or perhaps you just had a challenging conversation with a family member or work colleague, and you go for a run, setting the intention of letting your mind wander and being open to whatever feelings or thoughts may come up. Allowing ourselves in a space can bring insight. As you can see, intentional mind wandering isn't beneficial in many ways. The key is to be aware of what our intention is. More presence means less autopilot. We spend much of our time on autopilot. We walk, eat, commute, and even talk without clear awareness of what we're doing. We're just going through the motions, guided by our routines and the habits. 맞아요. These everyday experiences can remind us on how rushing through life keep us from being present. Please be patient, persist, and trade it with other activities too. We tend to spend a lot of time in our heads, lost in our thoughts, thinking and overthinking things rather than experiencing them directly. This translates for all of us to less time spent in the present moment. A single situation can lead us to a wide range of thoughts and interpretations. And these thoughts and interpretations, rather than the situation itself, shape how we feel, managing our intentions so that we can direct our sensory experiences rather than just relate them through our thoughts and judgments. It's a skill set that takes the time and practice to develop. We each have our own go-to emotion. 맞아요. go-to emotion? Wow, our own go-to emotion. Just being aware of what emotion we're experiencing is a solid starting point for the living with more presence. More living in the present means less living in the past or future. Being in the present is about being here, not getting there. I'm wondering if you're present with me on this page right now, or have you adjusted and whisked you up your dinner plans or the movie I saw last night. 맞아요. Cause this process by which we look at our past, present, and prospective future mental time travel. It's one of our brain's unique characteristics, and it's thought to be one of the features that distinguishes us from other mammals. It's pretty amazing that we can travel to different times and places in our minds, actually feeling that we're in the past or present. Mental time travel serves us well only when it's used to plan for the future and learn from the past. It's beneficial to have thoughts about our past and the future as part of our present experience. With the present, we can have thoughts about the past or present, but we experience them with intention as part of our present experience. When helpful, these reflections can enhance our lives rather than detract from them. However, ruminating about the past can mean re-experiencing the pain of the past losses, while worrying about the future can mean dreading things that very well may never occur. Another downside of not being present is missing out of what's going on around us. Yeah. Okay, FOMO. Let's use FOMO, fear of missing out, in a favor here, and reframe it to motivate us to avoid missing out on now. Furthermore, when we are not present, we are most likely heading into the downward spiral full of negativity. As the psychologist Rick Hanson points out in The Buddha's Brain, we all have a negative bias. That is, even when of equal intensity, thoughts and emotions that of the more negative nature have greater effect on our psychological state and the process than are neutral or positive things. Simply stated, positive things have less impact on our behavior than things that are equally emotional but negative. The reason for this is negative biases is that it helps us survive. If we err on the side of the overestimating the negative, so we don't miss any potentially life-threatening aspect of what's going on. And there is a re-experiencing the pain of our past failures and future worries is both exhausting and stressful, even though it is rooted in our survival history as a species. Unfortunately, the more we dwell on the negative, the more our brains become accustomed to dwell on the negative and continue to do so. Okay, go so close the door. Okay, now is good time to try it out for yourself. The next time you become aware that your thoughts are focused on the past or present, take a moment and look at them. Are they negative, reparative, and about you? Each of us has one or two habitual thought loops that we find ourselves returning to when we aren't present. The first step is becoming aware, pursuing for the present moment we call now. Adding just a few more moments of being present today can make a difference in bringing your most resilient yourself forward more often. We all share a deeply ingrained habit of aversion, avoiding, escaping, and trying to get rid of things that we experience as unpleasant or uncomfortable, which not only keeps us out of the present moment, but doesn't help us to deal at all with what we're trying to avoid. When our deeper brain networks, sometimes referred to as a reptile brain, sensing danger and activates a neural response to help us to get ready to fight, flee, freeze, or faint. Our prefrontal cortex, the higher brain area associated with the executing functioning and the rational top-down decision making, can be taken offline. In a life or death situation, there is no time for questions, and this is why exploring our own emotions and being open and curious can sometimes be deceptively difficult. So, what's an appropriate and modern day response to aversion? The answer is to name it, to tame it. To recognize it for what it is. Name it, allow it to be present. Don't engage, don't resist. And then pay attention to how it affects your mind and body. We don't have to fix it or get rid of it, but just to see it for what it is. The core of your continuing challenge is to not allow us in deep-seated tendencies to overrule us, but rather to regulate our behavior from a place of the presence. It's the difference between reacting and responding. You may be thinking, why should I welcome bad news, pain, and disappointment? After all, don't we all prefer to receive good news? Why not focus on the positive and just ignore the negative? Doesn't it make sense to avoid unpleasant experiences? No, because that doesn't work well in the long run. Since our emotions live within us, we can avoid them. In fact, aversion makes them worse. The more we engage with them and try to push them away, the more we become exhausted and generate even more unpleasant feelings. Okay, the next time you are feeling an unpleasant emotion, start by observing and being curious of what you're feeling without letting it overcome you and without trying to stop it. Noticing an emotion that is arising and not identifying with it as the whole of it, who you are, can empower you to label it as you let it be, not trying to get rid of it or to cling to it. The spaciousness of awareness as you focus attention on the emotion at the moment can allow it to arise and then move along as you stay fully in the present. Just inviting the feeling, naming it, and observing it unfold can be very helpful in changing your relationship with your emotion itself. Exploring our challenges with kindness and curiosity, rather than pushing them away, offers a perfect opportunity for some self and compassion, as it can increase our ability to intentionally take a breath so that we can respond rather than react with aversion. But if you do your best to accept and allow an unpleasant feeling and it just won't go away, it lingers, continuously gun at you, and you begin to worry that it will never leave you alone. We each experience the aversion with varying physical sensations, tightness, bracing, tension in the face, shoulders, or other body parts, and all of these sensations themselves appear unpleasant. Here are a couple of the facts that may help you when you're experiencing such negative thought safari. First, what do you think the lifestyle of the emotion is? You may be surprised to learn that even a very unpleasant emotion typically lasts no longer than 90 seconds, unless we try to chase it away or engage with, in which case it persists. Second, we aren't actually trying to change our feelings. We are trying to change our relationship to them, that is, the way we hold them in our awareness, to let go of the aversion so that we can be more likely to respond rather than react. This concept is at the heart of presence. Although we have no control over the challenges that go along with our being human and that will inevitably visit us during our lifetimes, we do have a control over how we respond to life's challenges. Psychologists and human superhero experience is not that we can be happier in the feel loving all the time. It's avoiding the pain, kind attention, and the holding anger with kindness. For example, presence helps us reveal a new relationship to challenges, to replace an aversion, and reactively within a receptivity, and to respond with natural interest, openness, and curiosity toward all experience, whether pleasant, unpleasant, or neither. In this way, we won't remain stuck in the same old habits, and we can take control of our own happiness by taking control of our wishes and respond to life challenges. Now is a good time to pick one unpleasant feeling that keeps on come up for you. Remember, studying slow work well within our mindfulness practices. So selecting something you can like and manage. Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10. Is it a 3? Is it a 3 or 4? Instead of pushing it away, just observe it, name it, get curious about it. Notice if it starts to listen less time, or they feel like it has a lesson and hold on you when you neither engage with it nor push it away. Repeat as needed. More accepting and letting be means less judging. Many mindfulness teachers use the phrase accepting as they are. But I appreciate that Tasdale, Williams, and Segel add one important word to the familiar phrases. They say accepting things as they already are. The addition already sounds final to me, as in nothing can be done, and at the end of each of us somehow helps me be more accepting of whatever I may be facing, and less likely to dwell on what I think should be. It's important to add here that being more accepting does not include ensuring abusive relationships or situations. Accepting means allowing ourselves to see with more clarity as we let go of the judging filters that can distort our ability to see the truth of what actually is. Presence is accepting what is, not striving to make things different. Once we accept and access our own essential nature, change follows, not the other way around. In other words, you are not inadequate. You have all that you need to be present right now. It is a matter of accepting invitations to be present, not putting another expectation on yourself to be better or indifferent. Even a few seconds of being present can make us feel more in charge of our lives, calmer, and better able to respond, rather than react to life as it comes at us within a dazzling speed. More presence means being open to the wider array of experience. Now is a good time. Bring to mind some situations that you would love to be able to change but cannot. Each time you think about it, say to yourself, let it be, accepted. Repeat as needed and see what happens. Patience and persistence are especially important here, since many of us have a hard tendency to try to fix and change things. Our thoughts can feel very real when we are not in a state of presence. We tend to over-identify with them, often considering them to be synonymously with reality or me. To our peril, we lose our perspective that they are simply products of our mind, and treat our thoughts and ideas about things as if they're absolute truth. They aren't. They may be true, but not necessarily. I discovered that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered, but that when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And that this is true for every human being. I found that suffering is optional. Fully present offers just a helpful analogy. awareness comes in a presence as a way of separating or disentangling ourselves from our thoughts. You can create them, but you do not need to become them. Think of it as the way a camera works. It sees everything that happens within the frame of the picture, but it is not affected by anything it focuses on. The camera can take any image, and simply frame it. Just as you can learn to do with your thoughts, over time you can learn to relate to our thoughts, and for many there are fleeting mental events that are construction of the mind. 들기가 너무 힘들어요. Given how much time we spend thinking and overthinking, it's easy to feel that we are our thoughts. Whether relating to our thoughts as mental events that simply come and go, look like in our lives. Imagine having the skill to just observe your thoughts and realizing that they are not you. Yes, they are products of your mind, and your mind is just a part of you, not all of you. Describes and tendencies to identify more with our mental life, our thoughts and emotions. Then our bodies this way. For example, we may say, I'm shy, or I'm a sad person, not I'm feeling shy. We don't over-identify with our bodies by saying, I'm not a sore elbow, but rather say, I have a sore elbow, or my elbow feels sore. When I over-identify with the emotion, as in the emotion is me, it can take us in an over and keep us in a stuck in our familiar ruminations and worries. Just as our thoughts and fleeting mental events, so are our emotions. Feeling of powerful influences. They shape our frame of mind, which in turn shape our patterns of thinking. Patterns of thinking often reflect emotional themes and similar to the feelings that gave rise to them in the first place. In other words, sad feelings relate to sad thoughts, and happy feelings relate to happy thoughts. Each time we are able to recognize a thought as thought when it arises, register its content, accesses its accuracy, and hold on us. Let it go, and come back to our awareness, which is distinct from the thought itself. We can strengthen our presence or mindful awareness. Now is a good time to make a mental note for the next time you're experiencing emotions such as sadness, to try to free yourself from over-identifying with emotion by saying to yourself, I feel sad rather than I'm sad. See if you can notice and feel the difference in viewing our emotions, thoughts, and memories as fleeting, not fixed. Mindfulness has an impact on the structure and the function of the brain through a process that I call neuroplasticity. Neuro represents our neurons, and plasticity describes our brain's malleability in response to experience. That is, our adult brain can be transformed by experience. As recently as 25 years ago, I believed that after puberty our brain did not change. Neurons are the basic brain cells are connected with each other, linkage and called synapses that help form the structure of the brain. Where we focus our attention, neurons fire, and where this neural firing happens, weaker connections in areas without the firing neurons, we actually can reduce the number of connections in the process, and scientists call synaptic pruning. What does this mean for mindfulness? It means that the more we can inhabit the mental state of presence, the more likely the state of the brain fire associated with the presence will become a trait of baseline brain activity that will activate it over time. Under pressure, for example, there is more of the chance that we'll be able to inhabit a state of presence since we have trained that state to be our baseline trait. So whatever we are being fully present in conversation and practicing yoga, we can create a state that actually become enduring traits. Oh, in other words, we can change our baseline state or habitual pattern. What we tend to do when our autopilot from a tendency to mindless react to the stronger likeness, that we will be able to mindfully respond. And this way, we can content and often respond in ways that may be more consistent with what we really want to say or do, rather than what we may flout our without the benefit of consciously choosing our words. Okay, more good news. Our brain's activity to form new connections and therefore new habits is possible at any age. With an exponential growth in scientific research specifically around the ways the brain grows with mindfulness practices and their implications for our well-being. What's the process in the brain by which the state of presence can become a trait? The idea is that by practicing mindfulness meditation, as in strengthening our focus of attention and opening our awareness in, for example, neurons fire and creating a clear and a receptive state of mind, which when repeated over time can become a trait. Traits occur with the growth in the neural connections. The three ways we can strengthen the neural connections by growing new neurons at least in the hippocampus, but other areas are still being explored. Modifying synaptic connections and the link down the myelin association is a mixing and communication among interconnected neurons 3,000 times faster and more coordinated. Where attention goes, neural firing flows, and the neural connection grows. Okay, there's one part of the brain that all the lighter introducing and now it caused it made a powerful difference in how I approach my own mindfulness practice. Okay, default mode network. 디폴트 모드 네트워크 너무 좋은데? Default mode network, giving its prominence itself a referential processing. We can think of it as a network that links ourselves into the inner and outer worlds. The DMN circuits, when overactivated, not only tend to make us self-preoccupied, but as part of our social brain, they cause us to compare ourselves to others and even worry about how others think of us. Imagine for a moment how activated our mind-line default circuits must be when we visit social media platforms. As discussed above, our time, distance, and intentionally created state of presence can become a baseline trait, a default way of being. Presence means being able to choose how and where to intentionally focus on our attention. In this moment of present sensations, on the memories of the past, or an images about the future. The two cannot exist simultaneously. Of course, distractions can still arise, but over time with the presence, when they do arise, we can more readily bring our attention back to the present. Remember, mindfulness is not about an empty mind, but a clear mind. Wow. Sometimes an overly activated and non-integrated DMN can make us anxious, depressed, and even touch within who we truly are. More moments in experiencing in the present means more time as in our most resilient self. Drag Walcott articulates this concept beautifully in his poem below. There is nothing inherently troubling about an inner voice or narrative, however, when it's inflexible or negative, is when we ruminate about the past and worry about the future. It can quickly become an inner critic. Are you your own inner critic or ally? If you're like many of us, you're both, but learning closer toward the inner enemy more than not. One of the hardest challenges for us can be give ourselves a break when we haven't met expectations, either those of others or our own. As a result, befriending or softening our inner enemy can be especially hard work. This is where self-compassion comes in. Identify the three core components of self-compassion, which are conceptually distinct but overlap, and give rise to another, self-kindness, or being understanding with ourselves and rather than critical and judgmental. Okay, common humanity, or feeling connected with others, and recognizing the imperfection and difficulties in shape a part of our human experience, rather than feeling isolated by our shortcomings. Mindfulness, or holding our experience in awareness rather than avoiding or exaggerating our pain. Here's how the three components complement each other and are interwoven. The open and accepting stance of mindfulness can assist us in being kind to ourselves and by lessening self-judgment. This stance also provides insight so we can recognize our common humanity, realize that we are all connected and all have challenges. Similarly, self-kindness can lessen the impact on negative emotional experiences, so it's easier to be mindful of them or hold them in our awareness. Furthermore, remembering that we all experience personal failures, which are part of being human, helps to lessen self-blame and the harsh self-judgment. What I can do isn't all I can do, and that will be enough. Self-compassion is about being kind, caring, and supportive of ourselves when we are struggling, just as we would take care of a good friend. If you're like the most of us, you're the much better friend to others than to yourself. As Nuff say, if you're judging your friends the way you treat yourself, you will have no friends. People who practice self-compassion enjoy myriad health benefits, including reacting to stress with low levels of stress hormones and having less anxiety and depression. As Never points out, increased self-compassion also reduce negative mind states such as shame, suicidal ideation, negative body image, and disorderly eating. Likewise, self-compassion is related to enhanced immune function, life satisfaction, happiness, gratitude, self-confidence, and body appreciation. Self-compassion can also be a powerful source of inner strength, coping, and resilience. One study of divorcing couples, for example, found that the most reliable indicator of how they were doing when in a post-divorce wasn't whether they were a good friend to themselves. Self-compassion was more predictive of a post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, than the level of a combat exposure. So it's not what happens to us, but how we treat ourselves when times are tough. It comes down to whether we are most often our own inner enemy or ally. Perfection doesn't make you feel perfect. It makes you feel inadequate. Oh, so why isn't self-compassion valid in our culture? And why isn't it so hard for us to be our own best friend? You may be thinking that it's more honest and honorable to be self-critical. Perhaps you see self-compassion indulgent, lazy, selfish, self-centered, or weak. What other misgiving do you have about self-compassion? Although we all need to have a realistic sense of our strengths and weaknesses, that's not the same as being hard on ourselves. Think of self-compassion as cultivating inner strength that will help us in every day. We become more resilient by learning to rely on ourselves for encouragement and support. Just as we rely on good friends in times of grief and consolation as well as in a celebration. For those of you who are curious about how self-compassionate you are, Never developed a 26 item called an self-compassionate scale short form. You may be wondering what the difference between self-compassion and self-esteem. Self-esteem is defined as a positive and negative evaluations we hold about ourselves or how we feel about ourselves. Self-compassion, on the other hand, has all of the benefits of self-esteem without any drawbacks because it excludes self-criticism and is not linked to a social comparison the way self-esteem is. You may be aware that psychologists extol the benefits of self-esteem until recent research linked high self-esteem with narcissism, unstable self-worth, and distorted self-perception. Describes it. Our self-esteem bounces up and down like in a ping pong ball based on our latest success or failure. Self-compassion is there for us when we succeed, but it stops in precisely when self-esteem deserts us, and that's when we fail, or are humiliated in some way, then it's there to catch us. Self-compassion is linked with the pure social comparisons and the less contingent self-worth. Making pure social comparisons can come in handy, especially when glimpsing into others' words on social media or internet, which increasingly compounds the negative effects on social comparisons. We'll be discussing in more social media later. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space, and in this space lies our power and our freedom. We can be mindful of all and any aspects of our life experience, including sensation in our bodies, feeling, thinking, seeing, smelling, hearing, touching, and tasting. Ideally, presence would permeate as many of our moments as possible, a tall order for sure. But the point is that presence or mindful awareness can become more and more aware of life, a baseline way of being. Research reveals that presence is a learnable skill. Remember, it's a practice after all. There are two complementary ways to realize this transformative potential of being present or mindful. Formal and informal. Formal practice and habits specify form, including structure and duration. Examples include mindful awareness and practices such as mindfulness and meditation, yoga, tai chi, or kung fu. Informal practices have no specified form, but are no less important than formal practices. Examples include feeling the rain on your face, being fully present for a conversation with a friend, or catching the sunset and paying attention in the nature's slideshow. The informal practices are important in realizing the full transformative potential of presence in our daily lives. Both confident and cheerful. That's how I always keep myself present. When she feels present, she describes feeling empowered. Whatever cause in the brain is a pleasure-seeking machine. As he explains, once we teach the brain the rational calmness in the present feels no better than our habitual state of seeking, then over time the brain will actually want more mindfulness. It turns out that our levels of well-being, resilience, and impulse control can be enhanced. Imagine how refreshing it would be if you could replace your monkey mind morning with a more peaceful, such as mindfully drinking a cup of tea, taking a walk, or some other practice that brings you an inner sense of calm. And our brains receive stimuli. They do their job in first sorting all of the stimuli that come our way, then looking for the patterns, and finally constructing categories and the concepts in order to make sense of the input based on our previous experiences. This information flow can be called top-down processing, and it opens subsets very well. Actively noticing difference is the key to presence, and that is our expertise in it that gets in the way. One way of understanding this is that our top-down process means that our minds are filled with memories, stories, and experiences from childhood on, which can sometimes imprison us and get in the way of our being able to have a fresh look at something. Ironically, the more expert we become, the less we can see because of our learning from past experiences and filters in our perception. Part of our eagerness to always fill the blanks is because our brain prefers answers over ambiguity, and we like to knowing, or at least thinking that we know. When we provide a story that allows our brain to protect us, it's happy, and we can enjoy a chemical reward for the story regardless of its accuracy. This phenomenon explains in part why just be present sounds so simple, yet in practice it's so hard to incorporate into our lives. Getting comfortable with an uncertainty and the not knowing is a part of the challenge. Not knowing is okay. By contrast with the bottom-up process, we receive and perceive input directly through our five senses: seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, and touching. We can even feel what scientists call our sixth sense. Interoception, or our way of feeling the sensation of the body. This is a direct way of noticing pre of the filtering through prior expectations and judgments. Language research shows that when we create a mindful state that we can be understood as bottom up, we experience an expressionist and an ability to see details, which in turn allows us to live more fully in the present. Nothing lasts. Nothing is finished. Nothing is perfect. Okay.